Hi, welcome to Little Mirrors. I'm Yolanthe,
And I'm Yule.
and today's vlog is the last in our series about the first month at home with a new baby. We're going to be looking at specifically weeks 3 and 4 of the first month, and the theme overall is about integration. If you haven't seen episodes 1, which is about the first week in the hospital, and episode 2, which looks at coming home and what that feels like, we recommend that you watch those first for context, but otherwise we're going to jump straight into it. So, the last half of the month, of the first month, it begins to feel like things are coming together. Your rate of brand new learning is probably slowing a little bit in some ways, and things begin to feel a little more familiar and less frightening. What would you say are the most important aspects of the last 2 weeks, weeks 3 and 4 of being at home?
So I think that the first one is you start to feel like you're forming some kind of routine. We were told by many people that you just need to make it through the first 8 weeks. There will be no routine really. Everything is constantly changing, and you just need to do what you need to do to get through those first 8 weeks. But what I think what we've found is that maybe in weeks 3 and 4 we started seeing patterns in our days, and because of that we were able to do more. So we would take, for instance, walks in the park with Agla and the dog, and we actually went out on a date. We were able to get help from Yolanthe's parents to come and babysit so that we could take care of some life admin stuff and work issues, and we felt fine doing that, and the grandparents love looking after her. And from what we've heard from others, that's very early for us to be doing those kinds of things, but we don't think that there's anything wrong with the way it's been going. Everything that seems to have been going quite well.
Yes.
And even so far as that I was able to start trying to build some kind of exercise routine in the last week or so. I have fallen off quite badly through the COVID lockdowns, and then through the period of being in hospital and trying to get back on our feet or just get onto our feet as parents. But I've had a number of workouts this week, and making space for those routines and figuring out how we can do that with the child has been good and interesting.
Yeah, I found the last 2 weeks very, I would say, reassuring, because I feel like I'm returning to a better sense of myself, I suppose, an integrated self that is also a mother now, which is the purpose. One of the purposes of Little Mirrors to show you how integration occurs when you have something that you really love doing, like your business, and that you also really want to do with excellence, and you love doing, which is being a parent. So I felt growing competence in the past couple of weeks. I bathed the baby alone. I've taken baby out on solo adventures. Now, these things sound a bit like a pittance when you haven't, maybe you haven't experienced it, but they feel like these really great shows of your ability to parent and keep your little person alive and safe, and that you can read their signals, and that stuff was hugely pleasing. So the walks in the park, bumping into locals that we know in the park and being able to chat with them and engage that part of our brain that doesn't talk about, at the moment we talk about the baby a lot because we're learning so much, but to engage the parts of our brain that are not about Agla, very, very pleasurable, and again, very reassuring. I have also, my parents group doesn't start until January, and I am restored by social interaction. So I'm actually part of a feminist writers mothers group, which is very north side and very woke. And I have reached out in that group to have like coffee meetings on a particular day of the week. And we've done that 2 weeks in a row, and I've met some new people. They're at different stages of parenting to me, and I've found that so reassuring, both in terms of growing competency, but also the experiences that they've had and that we're having in terms of both our transitioning identity as either a couple or a single woman going on to being parents or a mum, that the transition is very similar. It's not unique to us. Again, just wonderfully reassuring. So if you're finding a parents group's not working or you can't access a parents group yet, try and build your own tribe around you. I found that just really, really, really fun and good to meet new people. And I think that in weeks 3 and 4, it's seeing how baby fits in with the things I want to do rather than how I'm fitting in with the things that baby wants to do. So baby doesn't do a lot. She sleeps, she eats, she poops. Now she actually has a bit more facial interaction with us. So we've found in this latter part of the month a greater sense of who she is. Did you want to talk a bit about that? Because that's really nice.
Yeah, so maybe in the last just over a week, I would say, she started making proper eye contact and following our faces around as we move. She stares for quite long periods of time at us and also makes smiles, which is, one of those things that is just magical in life. When you see your baby smile for the first time or they start doing it quite regularly. That's been felt really felt like a giant leap forward developmentally for her and with her. So instead of being kind of alien, because there's no real emotional connection until you can have that eye contact and you can start seeing emotions other than just crying for not understanding their body or it's just very animal and instinctual for those first few weeks. Now it feels like she's starting to come into her consciousness, and it feels like we are actually forming bonds and getting a sense of maybe what her personality is like.
And that makes the process of caring for her easier. It makes it psychologically easier, I think. So I've also found that I have been able to strap her into this sling and do some work while she's on me, and that is hugely reassuring for me, and it is also very enjoyable. I really love working, and I'm so glad that I'm able to see how mothering and remaining a competent business person are completely compatible. I'm a newbie at it, but it's compatible. I just have to make space for it. So I've, as we discussed in a previous Little Mirrors, we've already taken the option of childcare for February. So Ava will be quite young. She'll be just on 4 months when she goes into childcare a couple of days a week. But I'm really glad that we've organised that, because having those 2 days where I know that I can focus entirely on my business and growing that just makes me feel a great sense of balance as I continue to grow more competent as a mother. Because I think that going back to work for women and men, depending on how that looks in each family, is another point of transition when you've got a wee baby, and that is something that we're going to discuss in further vlog series of Little Mirrors. Yul, how do you think we're doing well?
I think we're doing well in our relationship. So I think when you're put under a new kind of pressure and you've got to work as a team, and there's a lot of potential for conflict because we can both be tired. We might be getting more sleep than we expected, but we still get tired and we still have poor nights. And we've got a lot going on in our house. A lot of balls we try to juggle. So there's, I think we've dealt with each other in a really respectful way and understanding way to try and support each other through the transitions in both of our identities.
I think that we've done well in terms of our dynamic as parents, but I would say personally I feel really, really proud of myself for having been able to identify the emotions and the transition to name it, and then to put strategies in place for coping with things, whether that's baby blues or whether that's like, oh, am I going to be just a mum? And then listening to myself and going, okay, so what are the politics in your head around what just a mum means? So there's actually a lot of opportunities for inquiry and interrogation in some ways of your ideas about a whole lot of different roles. So I feel like my brain is still very much there, and even though the transition is hard, and I imagine that sometimes I still feel scared or trapped into being just a mum, that I have the skills to overcome those thoughts which are not really based in reality. Also, I'm really glad that we're already relying upon my parents and full care of our daughter while we either want to do things like make videos or do our work or go to the movies. That felt like we were doing really well, that we had a baby who was under a month old and we had the confidence and the strategy to be able to leave her with our parents and go and genuinely enjoy a movie.
Yeah. That
felt like we were kind of winning at life.
Particularly when you're the only two people in the entire cinema.
Yeah, we were the only two people in the cinema. It was fun. So that was our first month. It was a huge month, and we took lots of photos. We're so glad that we're doing these vlogs, not only because we know they're going to be useful for you, but they're a great record of this moment for us as well. And we're looking forward to seeing what month 2 brings. And we're going to be doing a bit more focus on also the media that we're consuming in our second month as our brains return to a bit more equilibrium and we can focus more.
Yeah, but spoiler alert, it's much harder to consume media
Yeah.
in like at least in long chunks, like a full episode or a full movie.
That's right, it's harder to consume media. However, we also managed to get ourselves a PlayStation 5, so expect some kind of like gaming review in the upcoming episodes of Little Mirrors. I'm Yolanthe.
And I'm Yule.
And I'm Agla the baby. And we're a happy little family.